If you don't focus on that very next step that's actually ahead of you right now, then you'll never have a chance to face the future fear and even take that future step.
Welcome to the Get Traction podcast. If you are ready to learn exactly what it takes to become a real estate entrepreneur, this is the show for you. With your host, founder of Traction Real Estate Mentors and president of the Traction Real Estate Investors Association, Tom Zeeb.
I've coached many students over the years, and I've talked to many people through all the Traction RIA training events and master classes that I teach across the country. And since people really are generally the same, it didn't take very long to start seeing patterns, personality patterns, behavioral patterns, focus patterns, lifestyle goal patterns, and the list goes on. So needless to say, I have a very good idea of what types of people are generally out there. Which types can and will follow my advice, achieve success, and get the job done, and those who can or won't. So what's the difference I've seen? Well, it's simple. You're either an implementer or you're an excuse maker. The implementers will take a great idea I give to them and just run with it. They ask questions about how to implement it, not if they should implement it. They don't argue with me, or they don't think they need to go find their own way of doing it. They simply implement what they've been told. They don't go and reinvent the wheel. They take my smooth, round wheel and roll with it. The excuse makers, on the other hand, always feel the need to argue and customize. They think they need to do it their way or that it has to have their personal stamp on it. They fail to see the value in quickly implementing what I tell them has actually worked. So instead, they fart around and try to find out for themselves. The problem is that often they just make the same mistakes over and over again, and then they fizzle out by the time that they would have found success if they had just implemented my instructions to begin with. If only they would have listened from the get-go, then they could have avoided all the heartache. But no, they know better. And so they stay stuck. If only they would be as stubborn towards doing what it takes to achieve success rather than having to reinvent the wheel every time they come across one. Well, when you work with me, I always focus on what's your next step, because that's all you need to be focusing on right now. If you are afraid of some step in the future or step number 17 down the road, that's fine, because I'll be there for you too when that step actually comes. But right now, if you don't focus on that very next step that's actually ahead of you right now, then you'll never have a chance to face the future fear and even take that future step. That makes sense, doesn't it? But many people live focus-free and confused intentionally, or at least subconsciously, because they can't blame themselves for their failures. Instead, they'll blame the current financial situation. But how do you expect to have any money if you never make the moves needed to learn or earn more? A little sacrifice will go a long way to making your life better. Or they blame their lack of time. Well, gang, I've got a news flash for you. No one has the time. But successful people make it happen anyway. They carve out what time they can, and they leverage that for maximum results. Or people blame the economy. Oh yes, this one's one of my favorite excuses because, man, it's the number one excuse used by most failed large companies and all the media hype. So it's easy for people individually to continue ignoring the truth because they just jump on that same old bandwagon because it protects their fragile ego as well. Another thing they blame is their parents or upbringing. Yep, you were damaged growing up, and that's unfortunate. But it's time to break free of those old chains. The secret is that you just have to actually want to, and then make the moves needed to move on. Or is it moving on that really scares you? Something to think about. What if they blame their spouse for holding them back? Well, perhaps if you weren't so codependent, then you just sack up and take charge, which is really what your spouse wants to see in you anyway. You'll all be better off in the long run. Or they blame their general lack of belief. Guess you just like to dream. Never mind that your dreams will never come true if you don't take action on them. So look, if you are really serious about achieving the goals you want, then you'll come up with the money one way or another, and you'll find the time to make it happen. You'll ignore all the other negative things holding you back because you are ready and the teacher has appeared. come to one of my Rapid Cash Generator training events. Just make the first move.
Thanks for listening. Your next step is to visit GetTractionPodcast.com. Happy wholesaling.